It's 2007. You've just downloaded the latest Flash game and set up a Facebook account because MySpace is so 2004. Apple's making a cell phone. Everyone knows that BlackBerry is the industry standard. No one wants to text on a screen.
Actually,
in the automotive world, the rise of SUVs and crossovers had resulted in many manufacturers moving away from station wagons and hatchbacks. There hadn't been a basic Civic hatch in 7 years, but the reality was there was still a market for small, practical, entry-level 5-doors, especially amongst younger people. I mean, if you wanted to buy a new car and were someone that needed the versatility of a 5-door but couldn't afford a CR-V, what were you going to buy from Honda? The thing is, Honda actually already had an answer to this. The Honda Fit, or Honda Jazz as it was named in some international markets, had been on sale since 2001. Just not in North America. But in April 2006, badged as a 2007 model, Honda finally brought the Fit to North America.
Appetite for cargo, the Fit, new from Honda, the Fit is go.
In the US, the Honda Fit was offered in 2 trims, Base and Sport. Base models came standard with power windows, side and side curtain airbags, and ABS. Power door locks, however, were reserved for Sport trims. Now, aside from just a few more color options and power door locks, Sport models also add a lower body kit, fog lights, a rear roof spoiler, an upgraded 6-speaker sound system, and steering wheel mounted paddle shifters in automatic models.
As if!
One of the main selling features of the Honda Fit was its interior space and flexibility for both occupants and cargo.
Can a man fit his yacht in it?
no.
The fuel tank was actually located under the front seats rather than the traditional under the rear seats location. This fuel tank location allowed for a lower cargo floor and increased cargo space.
Could a man fit his big boat in it?
Actually, no.
The Magic seats, as they were marketed in North America, could fold into 5 different arrangements. You could even quite easily fit a bike.
Could you come pick me up?
Actually, no.
Outside of the normal seating for 5, well, maybe 4.5, was the traditional 60/40 folding rear seat, a long configuration where the rear seat behind the passenger folds down and the passenger seat back folds back and allows you to transport items nearly 8 feet in length, a tall configuration where the rear seat bottoms fold upward to allow for transporting of tall, narrow items in the rear seat floor area, and a refresh mode where the front seat backs could be folded down to form lounge seating for 2. That last one is kind of cool actually, but why is it called refresh? I feel like these seating modes are bad translations of their Japanese names that were never optimized for the English-speaking market.
It's obviously called refresh mode because you feel refreshed when you sit in those relaxing seats.
But I still feel it's a clunky translation. It should have been called lounge mode. Or getting lucky mode. While I certainly award the Fit full points for cargo room and versatility, I'm not overly impressed with the interior when it comes to the dashboard. First of all, there's no temp gauge. Instead, you get a blue idiot light that comes on when the engine is warming up, and a red one that comes on after it's already overheated. You could easily have fit both a temp and a fuel gauge in that right circle, which is usually what Honda did with their gauge clusters in this era. That should be standard as far as I'm concerned. One thing I read in a Car and Driver long-term review of the Fit that really baffled me was one of their writers referring to the gauge cluster as Acura grade, with expensive feeling radio and climate controls. How is this Acura grade? Now, I'm not saying the interior quality is terrible. For the price point, it's not bad actually, but expensive is not an adjective that comes to mind when I sit in one of these. All North American models had the choice of a 5-speed conventional automatic or a 5-speed manual. The 5-speed manual actually had a pretty good feeling shifter. I don't have any complaints about it. The engine was 109 horsepower, a 1.5 liter L series single overhead cam VTEC. But don't worry, this was long before the abysmal direct injection turbo L series, so these ones are actually pretty good. And the only pattern failure that comes to mind are the ignition coils. And the fact that these are chain driven, unlike the older D series economy engines, means no expensive timing belt maintenance interval. Fuel economy was excellent, but with only 109 horsepower, the 11-second 0 to 60 time probably wasn't going to win you many races. But the little 1.5 liter was still smooth on the highway and capable enough to keep up with traffic, so it was a very good road trip car. International markets had a few different engine options, either an 8-valve, 1.2, 1.3, or 1.5 liter DSI engine, which is an acronym for Intelligent Dual and Sequential Ignition. These engines use 2 spark plugs per cylinder with the goal of a more full burn of all the gasoline in the cylinders to reduce fuel consumption, emissions, and maintain mid-range torque. We didn't use that engine here in North America though because we demand VTEC, yo! I do know that in Europe they marketed the 1.3 liter DSI engine as a 1.4 liter, but don't be fooled. It's the same 1339cc engine, they just wanted to differentiate it more from the 1.5 1.2 liter. So they ignored the rounding rules they learned in grade 2 and called it a 1.4 liter. Much the same way Chad rounds his height up to an even 6 feet on his Tinder profile. This is normally where I would start to talk about the mid-model refresh, but we never got one here, since it came to North America so late in its production run. Other markets did have a refresh. Note these different tail lights on the post-refresh models. Oddly, we got the old tail lights in North America, even though much of the rest of the world had already updated to these ones by the time the Fit was released here. North American cars do also have larger bumpers and a slightly longer front end due to differing safety regulations. 2008 would be the last model year for the first gen in North America, so we only got the first generation for 2 years here. And in that 2 years, it did pretty well. It's a shame we didn't get the 4-wheel drive one here, but there was still a lot you could do with the Fit. You could camp in it, you could sleep in it, you could haul a bike, not a boat.
Can we get centered in it?
You do you. Honda did something fairly unique for the marketing of the second generation Honda Fit. A lot of you probably remember these commercials, but did you know that there was also a flash game made to promote the Fit? And I actually was able to find it on the Wayback Machine, so let's check it out and get ourselves hyped for the second generation. Oh my god, those fuelavores. 6 airbags are ready. VSA stability assist ready. Oh my god, look at this crisp handling. Whoops, I just crashed into a barricade right away. We got a fuelavore hot on our tail. So what does spacebar do? Oh. Pufferfish. Right, we saw that in one of the commercials, that pufferfish thing. This is like Mad Max. Whoa. What am I doing? Releasing like bats? What the hell? I'm like literally releasing bats into the air. Alright, so maybe it's not the best game, but it was a pretty creative marketing idea, we gotta give them that. I'll leave a link to it down in the description in case any of you want to try it. The exterior design feels like a pretty natural evolution of the first gen to me, and I like the look of it better in pretty much every way. It looks more modern, more streamlined, and a little less cheap looking, for lack of a better word. One could certainly argue that the only thing cheap about this Honda Fit was its cost of ownership. With a combined EPA rating of 29 miles per gallon and an estimated cost per mile of just 9 cents according to Motor Trend's long-term road test, it's easy to spend more money on grande caramel frappuccinos than on fuel on your average road trip. I'm not really even joking about that. This Honda Fit has 10 cup holders. You heard that right. 4 seats, 5 seat belts, and 10 cup holders. That's a lot of frappuccinos. Once again, US market Fits came in base or sport trims, and Canadian trim levels were again DX, LX, and Sport. Base trims had power windows, a tilt and telescoping steering wheel, and a 160-watt 4-speaker audio system. Sport trims added similar equipment as the previous generation, including fog lights, alloy wheels, a rear roof spoiler, keyless entry, a 6-speaker audio system, chrome-tipped exhaust, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, and paddle shifters on automatic models.
As if!
Navigation could also be added as an additional option to sport trims in the US market. The second-gen Fit retains its forward-mounted fuel tank and high roofline, giving it once again an amazing amount of cargo space for such a small car. The Magic seats retained for the most part the same configurations as last year, except for that the refresh or lounge mode was no longer possible on American market Fits. I'm not sure why they took that away for the second generation. I thought it was a pretty cool feature, but you know, at least you got 10 cup holders.
So you don't think that it's a good idea?
Under the hood for the North American market is another 1.5 liter L series. It had a slight power increase up to 117 horsepower and 106 pound-feet of torque, so the second gen Fit still isn't going to win you any races. But it does have 10 cup holders. Transmissions were again a 5-speed auto or 5-speed manual. I have to say that these engines are very reliable, and a little bit of regular maintenance is pretty much all they need. And that's the way it should be for an economic entry-level car, since presumably buyers in this segment don't have a lot of extra money sitting around to be able to afford costly, unexpected repairs. And even if they did, they probably spent it all filling up their cup holders with their Starbucks order. Outside of North America, some Honda Fit or Honda Jazz models came with either a 1.2 liter or 1.3 liter engine. Automatic optioned vehicles were again a CVT, and there was once again a 4-wheel drive model that we didn't get. Can we get some 4-wheel drive models up here in America, Honda?
Actually, no.
The dashboard design is an improvement in some ways. I like the design design of the gauge is better, but there's still no temp gauge, even though there's more than enough room for one. The climate controls are a simple and effective design, and the knobs have a good feel to them. The leather-wrapped steering wheel on sport models is a nice touch. The placement of the two outside cup holders right in front of the climate vents seems a little weird at first, but it's actually an intentional design. Turning the heat on essentially gives you a heated cup holder for your coffee or tea in the winter, and a cooled cup holder for your summer beverage when you have the AC on. Shannon might think her new Lexus is fancy, but it's all show. Do you have climate-controlled cup holders, Shannon? I think not. And how many caramel frappuccinos can you fit in that LS at once? Just 4? You peasant, I can fit 10. What do you mean that's why I'm poor? In 2011, on US models, Honda added their vehicle stability assist system, cruise control, keyless entry, and USB audio as standard equipment across all trim levels. Most of these standard equipment updates were added to the LX trim in Canada, with DX still being a very basic trim that mostly only exists so dealers can advertise a lower starting price and then conveniently not have that model in stock when you go to buy one, coercing you into spending a little extra to get the LX.
Transport charge. Storage surcharge, additional overcharge.
In 2012, a facelift added a redesigned front bumper and grille, new wheels, and a new interior color scheme with chrome accents. Although the 3rd gen Fit wouldn't come out until the 2015 model year, 2013 was the last year for the 2nd gen Fit in the US market, with the Fit going on a 1-year production hiatus there. Canada, however, did continue selling Honda Fits into the 2014 model year. There's no question that a 2nd gen Honda Fit Sport is a very well-equipped subcompact 5-door, but with the fully equipped Sport trim now retailing for just over $19,000, it's not exactly the cheapest option in its category. It costs thousands more than a Versa, and it's probably worth it, but it also costs very nearly the same as a Mazda 3 hatch. The Mazda 3 does only have 2 cup holders though.
Is a new Fit a great fit for you?
Can we get centered in it?
Namaste.
You think you could help us move this carpet?
I swear it's just a carpet. Can a man fit his yacht in it?
No.
Could a man fit his big boat in it?
Actually, no.
Can it help me achieve world domination?
Yes, it can.
Buy it. Dump it. Buy it. Hold on a sec. Can I fit it into tight spaces?
Easy peasy.
On sale for the 2015 model year, the 3rd generation Honda Fit still withheld a 4-wheel drive model from the North American market. This time, they even trolled us about it.
Can we take it off-roading, bruh?
Yeah, bruh.
Oh, did you mean like this?
Well played, Honda. The new Honda Fit had quite the cosmetic overhaul, with a much more modern look that was a preview of Honda's new corporate image that we would be seeing roll out on other models over the next few years. Despite its radically different appearance, the Fit retains its forward fuel tank design and still features its trademark Magic seats, and even had the lounge mode added back to the American market. The new interior has decent gauges that are easy to read, albeit still lacking a temp gauge, and simple, good quality climate controls. The new interior does, however, have one major shortcoming: the new touchscreen infotainment system. Honda, in all their wisdom, for some reason thought that consumers would rather slide their finger across a glitchy touch bar on the screen, resulting in erratic and unpredictable volume changes, than turn a simple knob. Sometimes Honda, if it ain't broke, you shouldn't fix it. When it comes to interior cup holders, this time only the driver is privy to a climate-controlled beverage holder. The passenger will have to make do with a standard cup holder like a common peasant. The amount of cup holders present in the new Fit overall is only 3? I'm not sure if these door pockets are supposed to be cup holders or not. I guess you could probably shove water bottles in them, but even if we count them, that's still only 7. At least it's still more than Shannon's car. I usually have the first 3 frappuccinos chugged before I make it back to the car anyways. What do you mean that's why I'm addicted? I'm not addicted, I just need them. This time, Honda Fit trim levels were LX, EX, and EXL. Keyless entry is standard on all models now. EX models upgrade to 16-inch alloy wheels and push-button start. EXL model had leather with heated front seats. So what's under the hood? Oh, I'd recognize that ticking sound anywhere. That's an Earth Dreams motor. The Fit's powertrain is now the L15B1, a dual overhead cam direct injection 1.5 liter with Honda's new variable timing control. Power is up to 130 horsepower and 114 pound-feet of torque. It's not quite as reliable as the previous generation. And if you ever hear this noise when cold starting, well, that's your VTC actuator. and ignoring it for too long could result in a stretched timing chain. The manual transmission is now a 6-speed, a welcome change which helps cut down on some of that sewing machine engine noise on highway cruises. Sadly though, a manual transmission is not available on EXL trims, which means you have to choose between having a proper transmission or the luxury of heated leather seats. Automatic models for the North American market were now CVT.
As if!
Oh, but don't worry. Honda still gives you paddle shifters. How exactly does that work on a continuously variable transmission? Well, according to Honda themselves, the CVT transmission can be controlled with steering wheel mounted dual paddle shifters for a more engaging driver experience.
Trust me, it doesn't work.
The Honda Fit does also have a sport mode though, which apparently lets you use the paddle shifters to select between 7 different ratios for even more spirited CVT driving.
Trust me, it doesn't work.
Should you want a less spirited driving experience and want to pretend that you are conserving fuel and saving the environment by pressing one button on your way to the coffee shop that's so close you could have walked, there's also an eco mode button. On the topic of fuel, during their long-term road test, I noticed a lot of car and driver staff complain about the fuel tank capacity and range. More specifically, they seem to think that the fuel warning light comes on way too early, and even when the last bar disappears on the digital fuel gauge, there's still 2 gallons left in the tank. This point does illustrate the downside of a digital fuel meter. It's essentially a fuel gauge that can only move in chunks. The mid-model refresh came out in 2018, and they did make some improvements. First of all, Honda listened and put a physical volume knob back on the infotainment system. Honda also added more soundproofing materials to cut down on engine and wind noise in the cabin. I did have to laugh when reading Car and Driver's 2018 review of the Honda Fit when they complained that the tiny fuel tank had still not been addressed. It is a little small, but it's the same size as the previous generation. I think the digital fuel meter is just making them panic and fill up sooner. A new trim was added for 2018, the return of the Sport model. Sport trims were sort of between LX and EX, and they got some cosmetic enhancements like front and rear spoilers, black 16-inch wheels, black interior with orange stitching, a leather-wrapped steering wheel and shift knob, a chrome exhaust tip, and an orange exterior color that I surprisingly don't hate. It's way better than Blaze Orange Metallic. EX and EXL trims added Honda Sensing, which I could have done without.
Trust me, it doesn't work.
A more interactive color display screen instead of the previous blue LCD screen, and a digital tack. 2020 would be the final year and the end of the Fit in North America, with most Americans wanting crossovers by this point. And as such, the Fit platform-based HR-V was stealing much of the sales. The Honda Jazz went on to be sold in other markets for a 4th generation, but the age of small, economic 5-door wagons had come to an end for Honda in North America. So what's your favorite generation?